What's going on, summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. I'm Kangas, and today I'm taking a look at 5 OP picks for patch 2.2a. To start off the list, in case you have not been paying attention, Ziggs has been steadily on the rise from his former grave. If you didn't know, Ziggs was regarded as one of the worst champions on launch. However, those times are long gone. This control mage Yordle is now an absolute unit that you have to have on your radar if you're playing mid lane. His passive ability empowers his next auto attack to deal additional damage to the target, and if the target is a structure, it deals double the damage. Bouncing Bomb is his first ability, and at the same time his bread and butter ability for clearing and poking the enemy. In lane, you can easily hit a spot in which you damage every minion in the wave. And more than that, you can also use minions to catch the opponent off guard and get in some chip damage. Satchel Charge is his second ability and throws out a little bomb that knocks away enemies and himself. Another neat addition to this ability is the fact that it damages towers and demolishes them if they're under 20% health. A true Hexplosives expert. His third ability is an actual nightmare for the enemy team when it comes to team fighting. The moment Ziggs places down this ability, he creates a minefield that blocks any corridor you want to go through, unless you're willing to take the damage. I don't recommend you do so, but hey, do what you want to. Last but not least comes Ziggs' ultimate, the Mega Inferno Bomb, also known as the I dare you to start an objective ability. Believe me, you do not want to be inside that bomb when it goes off. That is a fast team wipe if he's strong enough. For laning, you gotta sit back a little in the earlier stages of the game, just because you don't have the damage yet to be an actual threat. Your primary job is to scale and annoy the hell out of the enemy by making it just impossible to get close to the dragon. So don't worry, you can take it kinda slow with Bomberman. However, once you reach your 2 to 3 item breakpoint, you're gonna delete enemy carries before the fight even starts. But don't forget one simple rule of playing Ziggs. Your positioning is more important than anything else. As long as you're alive, the enemy has to worry about you. Fortunately for you, Ziggs also scales amazingly into the late game. So go check him out if you like tilting your opponents. And before we continue with the list, I gotta remind you to check out the Discord in the description down below. I saw somebody post a support Ziggs build that I haven't tried out yet, but I really want to give it a go. But there's always crazy conversations like that going around, so come join the fun. So we covered mid lane, now let's hop to the role that mid laners hate the most, jungle. I think any mid laner can agree that early on, any kind of jungle interaction usually spells pain. So if you want to be that kind of player that slips into the role of the guy inflicting pain to mid laners, then here you go. Let's take a look at a champion perfectly suited to cause chaos in the Wild Rift. We've talked about him for a couple videos now, so this shouldn't surprise anybody. Lee Sin is a monstrous champion in the early game. His potential to invade the enemy jungle is absurdly high thanks to his broken mobility and damage output. His passive ability grants him 50% attack speed for the next 2 attacks within 3 seconds after using an ability. If you combine that with his first ability that allows him to gap close to his enemies upon hitting them, you will quickly understand why he's such a scary guy. More than that, the reactivation of his first spell deals additional damage based on the target's missing HP. That quickly adds up to ridiculous numbers. And contrary to the League of Legends PC version of Lee Sin, he doesn't need any unit to dash towards with the second spell. He can just cast it into the air. So what do you do once a Lee Sin chooses to invade you? How can you even match that mobility and consistent damage that he's putting out? And if you're not sold yet, we're not even done with his abilities. Reactivating his second spell grants him an empowered attack that deals extra damage and heals for quite a large amount of HP. Also, he's got a third ability, Tempest. If a Lee Sin hits you with Tempest, you'll be revealed, so good luck trying to juke him with some fancy flash because he'll see wherever you go. In addition to that, the second part of his third ability also slows you for a decent amount, making it nearly impossible to get away from him once he's on top of you. By the way, are you familiar with the 80s action hero Chuck Norris? Well, if not, no problem. Lee Sin's ultimate ability, Dragon's Rage, is also the roundhouse kick. Go look it up, you'll see the similarity. With that ability, he kicks you straight to the face and knocks you back. More so than that, every enemy hit by the kicked target will also be knocked up and take even more damage. As a champion, Lee Sin lives off of snowballing ahead. Invading, ganking, and crushing his opposition are required to make the champion work. Even though you might categorize Lee Sin as an early to mid-game champion, he still has some qualities to him in the late game too. Utilizing his second ability combined with a flash kick can turn a fight instantly. And if you give it enough practice, you're gonna make some mid laners really angry. Okay, it's time for our strongest pick of this video, featuring you. What is your personal OP pick this patch and why? Let us know in the comments below. Next up on the list is a scary champion that loves bullying her enemies in the dragon lane. If you master this champion, you will be one hell of an annoying AD carry. Misfortune is currently flying a little bit under the radar, but definitely a champion that packs a solid punch. Love Tap is her passive ability, and whenever she hits a new target, she deals extra physical damage to that target. So make sure to alternate if you can, especially on minion waves. Her first spell is the most obnoxious spell to deal with. Double Up is just pure migraine material for any laner. Being a true MF main helps you find angles that you won't even think exist. She can even position herself in a way that you can barely see the spell flying onto a minion, making it nearly impossible to dodge its crazy damage. Every single time she shoots that bullet, it ricochets behind the first enemy hit, dealing 150% damage. That's quite a punch. Her second ability is called Strut, and it has a passive and an active effect. If Misfortune didn't take any damage for 5 seconds, she gains extra movement speed, and upon activating the spell, she receives an attack speed buff and the movement speed buff for 4 seconds, which makes it a great tool for maneuvering any fight. Her third ability, Make It Rain, complements that ability even more, as you have an AoE slow field that you can utilize as well. More so, if you think about all the nice combinations that you can make, what about using your third spell and your ultimate in a combo? You slow all the enemies and you blast them with bullet time. That's some serious damage. If you add some neat bounces to the mix, you have a crazy ability weaving carry. In lane, you want to ideally annoy the enemy as much as possible and force them out of lane. Every single double up that hits gets you closer to the absolute lane dominance. But you have to keep in mind that you are an AD carry without any mobility, but movement speed steroids and a slow, so being aware of your surroundings is really paramount to your success in teamfights later on. Next up on the list is another mid laner that's taken the Wild Rift by storm. Katarina has become one of the most picked champions in higher elo gameplay. Her insane snowball potential is even exceeding a Lee Sin by a mile. Yeah, a Lee Sin might beat you to a pulp, but he still has cooldowns that he has to play around. Compare that to Katarina that can just jump through multiple daggers in a fight and kill everything in a matter of split seconds. That power is even more amplified by her passive Veracity. Whenever Katarina picks up a dagger, she deals damage in a circle around her. More than that, after participating in taking down an enemy champion, all of her cooldowns are reset by 15 seconds. In practical terms, all of her basic abilities are completely off cooldown, which leads to, of course, more daggers, more jumps, more damage, and more death. You know where this is going. Katarina's first ability is called Bouncing Blade. It deals damage to a target and 2 other targets nearby, as well as leaving behind a dagger that she can jump to. In lane, most of her early game will solely be focused on getting CS and poking the enemy with that ability. Her second ability speeds her up and simply tosses up a dagger into the air that drops where the spell was cast. With the power of her third ability, she can jump onto any unit that is in range, including daggers, honeyfruit, and scryer orbs. Oh, and if that's not enough jumping already, picking up a dagger reduces her third ability's cooldown as well. For her ultimate ability, Katarina massively slows herself down, but spins while dealing damage to the 3 nearest champions. The damage of her ultimate ability also applies the Grievous Wounds debuff that cuts healing down immensely. In lane, Katarina usually tends to be more passive up until level 3. The moment she has access to her core abilities, she starts being a nuisance in lane with her daggers. If you don't pay enough attention to your positioning, once she hits level 5, she can actually 100-0 you on the spot, so make sure you watch out. However, if you haven't itemized into any magic resist, by the time she completes her Hextech Gunblade, you will still die just insanely fast. And as you've already seen above, if you happen to die, you might get your teammates killed as well, all thanks to the power of resets. But the most important part of playing Katarina is just being patient. A lot of time, you're not allowed to just jump in. Look at the enemy champions, spot the ones that might shut you down if you happen to jump in. Any CC is scary for you as a champion, as you're super squishy yourself. Sometimes you have to even wait for half of your team to die before you can start your play, because what do you think would happen if you just jump into a Leona and Galio if they haven't used their cooldowns yet? You just die instantly without being able to do anything, and that's not the 1v9 performance you signed up for with this champ. And to round things out for the Baron lane, we have another super scary champ. Fiora the Grand Duelist is a champion that, as the game goes on, you can never escape from. Her power comes from brutalizing the side lanes and using that power to either split push or flank for a team fight. The way to play Fiora is to play around her passive Duelist stance. For a specific frame of time, there will be an available vital spot on an enemy champion that Fiora can proc. Outside of her ultimate ability, there will be 1 active vital at a time. Hitting that vital with any attack or spell grants Fiora healing and deals true damage to the target. Remember the part where you can't run from her? Yep, it also grants her movement speed. In lane, her first ability is her trademark and usually what you're gonna max. With Lunge, she can constantly harass the enemy laner from a safe distance. Additionally to that, she can also proc vitals with it to make it even more obnoxious. When you think about trading back, you have to be very careful about her second ability, Riposte. This blocks every incoming damage and debuff for 0.75 seconds, so use your cooldowns with care. It also stabs into a chosen direction, dealing a huge chunk of damage, as well as reducing attack speed and movement speed by 50%. Oh, and if you happen to have a hard crowd control spell in your kit and you hit the riposte while she's channeling it, she also blocks your CC, and now her riposte turns into a stun rather than a slow. To make it even more dangerous, Blade Work empowers her next 2 attacks with 60% attack speed and deals a huge amount of damage in combination with a non-hit slow. I think you can see why you won't be getting away from this champion, right? But it gets even better for her. With the Grand Challenge, we have the final piece of her kit. This ultimate ability instantly spawns 4 vitals on a target. After striking these vitals, or just killing the target, you spawn an enormous healing zone that's on par with Janna's ultimate. A neat trick for her is to proc a vital and then cast Grand Challenge. This way you'll be able to instantly proc the same vital again. In lane, you want to bully the enemy as much as possible with your lunge ability. You can be really aggressive on Fiora because it depends on how good you are at outplaying. A lot of that has to do with how you use your second ability, Riposte. The hardest part about playing Fiora though is transitioning into the late game. As you all know, Wild Rift's player base is kinda trigger happy with fights, so split pushing appears to be somewhat risky a lot of the times. An easy way to fix that is by purchasing the teleport enchant. The other possible way of finding more impact later on is instead looking for flanks. AD carries cannot get away from this champ, so you can just run them down. But it also isn't just about finding these opportunities, but creating them for yourself. Fiora is definitely worth the effort of picking up, but it might take some time to get used to her power. Once you do though, you'll be a happy gamer. Yeah, sometimes it's not ideal that in order to climb, we have to play OP stuff rather than our favorite champs, but if you're serious about getting good at the game, then you should learn how to play all these champs anyway. And then when the meta shifts for the next patch, hey, you're already ahead of the curve and you can play your favorite champs then. Also, for help learning the champs, make sure that you're actually subbed to the channel so you catch all of our guide videos. But that's it for today, so as always, best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time. Fine dining, that's how you gain LP.
Get some culture.
Gain some life LP.